Today, as part of leadership series, we're talking on pyramid of communication. And before I do that, I want to talk about the main challenges of virtual team. If you think about it, the main challenge of virtual team is that they lack the common face-to-face interaction that is typically available in regular co-located teams. Co-located teams means physically present within the same space, and even though this statement might seem a little bit overly simplistic, it is actually the core reason why we are talking on this. Virtual teams have their challenges because we are not face to face, and I bring this up because I do want to talk about the pyramid of communication and how that's actually going to help you. But first, I want to talk about the team proximity spectrum to kind of shed some light on what I mean by the pyramid of communication. So think of teams composition as being a point on the spectrum with 100% virtual team on one end and the 100% co-located team on the other end. So the lithograph shows aligned with one of being 100% virtual and other is being 100% co-located. And an example of 100% virtual team could be the team of four or five individuals who live in completely different countries and they have never met once face to face. They could be working on technology project or any other virtual type of project. An example of 100% co-located team would probably be something like a construction site, five builders working together to build a home and usually do not have any virtual team component to that. So the idea here is that if your current team is one point P A of the spectrum and the other words closer to 100% virtual team as you can see in the little line below, then changing the composition of the team so that like on point B, closer to 100% co-located teams will actually reduce the challenges faced by the team and increases intimacy. So the point A being the closer to the 100% virtual team, there is a big gap between that and being co-located. But if you move from point A to point B, and then you are then actually reducing the challenges and increasing the actual team cohesion within the team. So how do you actually accomplish this? To accomplish how to move from point A to point B and increase intimacy and cohesion, we should look at the pyramid of the communication, and this is where I was getting at earlier with why this is really important. So what is the pyramid of communication? The pyramid of communication shows the different technologies that are typically used to communicate within the virtual teams, and the higher we are in the pyramid, the more intimate the form of communication and the better it is for the team's cohesion traits. And when I say cohesive traits, I mean proper equity, a level of closeness within the team. So here is how the pyramid of communication looks like. You have at the bottom email communication, which is a lot less intimate than all the other technologies, and then you move up all the way until you get the face to face communication, which is the most intimate, and I would like to spend a couple of minutes talking about each one of those levels. So starting at the bottom, email is a typical email messaging service that most of us usually actually rely on. And level above that is the instant messaging. You have something like Webex Connect or MSN Messenger or Yahoo Chat and all other instant messaging service. And with social media, and you have got Yammer, which is a sort of Facebook but for corporations, or you have got discussions forums and posts that those are the sometimes re- relied on with the virtual teams. A level above, you have phone and teleconferencing is when you dial in with your team, and you have got an audio only. Video conferencing is basically a conference in with your team where you actually see their facial expressions because you have video turned on, and you usually use something like Webex meetings for that, or go-to meetings and telepresence. That's what I call video conferencing or steroids. It is basically same thing as video conferencing, but it is a lot more. It is like high definition and it has this more realistic feel because a lot of the video projections that you see are life-sized, and it is as if people are actually in the same room with you. And Cisco actually sells a lot of telepresence solutions for large companies there, and then of course at the top you have got the best form of intimacy in terms of communication, and that is face-to-face communication. So what are the things you should do to increase the level of intimacy within the team? You should do two things. The first is you move up the pyramid of communication, and the second is to mix multiple levels of pyramid. And I'm going to be talking about both of those right now. So the first thing is to move up the pyramid of communication. And let's say, for example, you spend most of the time in the email level of the pyramid. Your team lives abroad and spend 90% of your time with back and forth email messages within your team. So to increase the level of intimacy within your team, you might want to try and move up a notch or the two of the phones or teleconferencing level, where you basically either pick up the phone and call the specific developer or team member to hash out any misunderstandings, or to basically just get together and try to resolve issues, or to actually set up regular teleconferencing calls within your teams, whereby you get to hear what they have to say, as opposed to and dry level of email communication. You can of course move in even further up the pyramid and go with video conferencing, where you can get to see their facial expressions. And I think this is a really good best practice of maybe doing it once every couple of weeks or maybe once a month, where you actually ask your team to basically use video conferencing using their webcams, and you can do this for free using either Skype or Google Hangouts. So again, this the lesson here is to move up the pyramid to increase the level of intimacy. The second thing is to mix multiple levels within the pyramid. So, as an example, let's say most of the time you spend with your team is at phone teleconferencing level, and what you can do here is actually incorporate multiple other levels of the pyramids to increase intimacy. So you can try incorporating face-to-face interactions as well as instant messaging and social media. So if you notice, you actually move down here a notch while using your phone to communicate with your team, but that doesn't hurt you, because what you are doing is you are attacking the pyramid with multiple levels. You are using multiple forms of communication within you with your team, and that has a great psychological effect to bring the team together. So let's say you actually work with someone face to face every day, and then with someone else who you work face to face every day, you do email them every now and then, and you send the text message, instant messaging. You do a lot of instant messaging within them. You talk on the phone, and sometimes you do web conferencing with that second person. You are going to feel a lot more closer for acutely perspective versus the first person who you interact with using one form of communication. So again, the lesson here is to mix and use multiple levels of pyramid as opposed to sticking to just one. So, what are the summary of the actions for the video? The first is to observe how you currently communicate with your virtual team and where you spend most of your time in the pyramid of communication. And then the second action is to increase intimacy and cohesiveness within the team. You should do the following two things. First is move up the pyramid, and remember, the higher the better. And the second thing is mix multiple levels of pyramids, and more is better in this case. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video.